Joining me now is Khaled Elgindy. He is a senior fellow at the Middle East Institute and author of Blind Spot, America and the Palestinians from Balfour to Trump. And we thank you for being here to give us your insights on really what have been some news-making events just in the last hour. You heard Kamala Harris saying that she had a frank and constructive discussion. Do you think that will make an impression on Benjamin Netanyahu himself to really get this deal done?
I think it has to leave an impression. If for no other reason, then Kamala Harris could very well be the next president in a matter of several months. So he has to take it into consideration. I mean, more importantly, or at least as importantly, if you remember, we've been repeatedly told by U.S. administration officials that the current ceasefire proposal that is on the table is an Israeli proposal. And so it's a bit odd for the Israeli prime minister to come to Washington, say nothing at all about his own government's ceasefire proposal, and instead actually do the opposite to make the case for continuing the war. The speech was quite fiery and I would say even belligerent. But I do think the message from Kamala Harris, as well as others in the administration, was probably received.
In terms of it being received, we've asked many, many times why the United States can't bring more pressure to bear. The conventional wisdom now says that Biden is weakened, right, because he's dropped out of the race. And yet, could the opposite be true, that he may now become a more effective peace broker because he's unshackled, right? He's not running for president.
Right. So conventional wisdom is that as a lame duck president, he has a bit more space to maneuver. He's unencumbered by an election. He doesn't need to worry about donors and voting blocks and all of that. At the same time, and so he theoretically has more space to put that kind of pressure, but that assumes that he's inclined to do that. And I think everything that we've seen from Joe Biden over the past almost 10 months has been he's simply not inclined. I think the message that he's sent to Israel is, look, I don't like what you're doing. It's not good. It's not even good for Israel, but it's certainly not good for Palestinians. And we'd rather you didn't do it. But even if you do, we're still going to support you regardless. And that's the message that Netanyahu has received, and he's repeatedly kind of blown through any red lines that President Biden has put up, and he's defied the administration at every stage. So there hasn't been much incentive for Israel to go along. So, and I think a lot of that comes down to the person of Joe Biden. I think he's just not, it's not something that he loses sleep over. I think that the contrast with Kamala Harris is pretty stark. She talked about nuance.
But just to pick up on that point, right? If you're Kamala Harris, you can go to President Joe Biden and say, look, I need this ceasefire. We need this ceasefire if I'm to take this issue off the table. As we all know, this issue has so divided the Democratic Party.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's no question that a ceasefire now would be in everyone's interest. It would be in Biden's interest for his legacy or what remains of it. For Kamala Harris, if she were to become president, it would make her job much easier. And even for if Donald Trump becomes president, I mean, no one wants this looming horror show to continue on their watch. And so I think that's the message that people are hearing. I'm just not sure that's the message that Netanyahu is delivering, particularly to his allies in the Republican Party.
Mm-hmm. We've all been so consumed with trying to get a ceasefire here. I don't think people have really taken in how this whole region has been transformed. The terror attack, the ensuing war. I mean, are you beginning to see the outlines of what this looks like when this war does end? Because, as I say, it has been dramatically transformative for the entire region.
Yeah, it has. I mean, we're still really on the brink of a wider regional war that could still happen on many different fronts. But what is becoming clear is that the and I think this will become even clearer once the guns fall silent, once we have a ceasefire and there's an ability for journalists, foreign journalists, to come into Gaza and report on the devastation, for humanitarian aid. I think we don't even have a full picture of the scale of devastation in Gaza. But I think one thing that is clear is that the long term repercussions of this war will reverberate, I think, for not just years, but decades, generations. You don't inflict this kind of death and destruction in such a short amount of time without creating massive generational trauma. And I think we're only seeing um, a limited picture of what is actually happening. There's almost 40,000 killed, but health experts say that number is probably much higher.
Yeah, if you even just take the point that children in Gaza have not gone to school now, it will be nearly a year. Khalid, thank you so much. Really appreciate your insights there.